Here's a thought. Why not call good books and cassettes tapping the treasure of ideas? That's it, tapping the treasure of ideas, like you're doing with this program. And if somebody's got a good excuse for not tapping the treasure of ideas for at least 30 minutes every day, or spending the money and getting the books and cassettes, I'd like to hear it. Some excuses you wouldn't believe. I say, John, I've got this gold mine. I've got so much gold, I don't know what to do with it all. Come on over and dig. John says, I don't have a shovel. I say, well, John, get you one. He says, do you know what they want for shovels? Hey, invest the money. Get the cassettes and books. The best money you can spend is money invested in your self-education. Don't shortchange yourself when it comes to investing in your own better future. Mr. Schoaf got me started on my library when I first met him. He said to me, become self-educated. Standard education will get you standard results. Check those numbers and see if that's what you want. And if it isn't, if you want something better than standard, you must become self-educated. So I went to work on my library, and I now have one of the best. Schoaf recommended a couple of books in particular to get me started. Now, I had a Bible, that's 66 books, so that was a pretty good start, and my parents saw to it that I had a good study of the Bible. But the first book Mr. Schoaf told me to get was the book Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill. If you don't already have it, it's a great one to add to your library. Earl Nightingale has put it on cassette. The title should intrigue you, Think and Grow Rich. I read it several dozen times. Schoaf said repetition is the mother of skill, and if you could have seen my bank account at the time, you would have known I needed lots of that kind of repetition. Some of the ideas in that book made major changes in my life. As I look back now, the book was worth thousands, and I bought it for pennies. I learned a very valuable lesson. There can be a great deal of difference between cost and value. Before I met Mr. Schoaf, I used to ask, how much does it cost? After I met him, however, I soon learned to ask, how much is it worth? I started basing my life on worth instead of cost, and everything changed. So that was one book he recommended, Think and Grow Rich. The next book he recommended I get was a book on nutrition. Schoaf said, study nutrition. Vitality plays an important part in doing well. Some people don't do well because they don't feel well. It's not that they're not intelligent, it's that they're ill. They don't have the fire and the vitality to do well.
If you're a leader in this room, how many consider yourself a leader in what you do for a living? Let me see your hands. I figured almost everybody. So if you're a leader, that doesn't mean other people follow you, by the way. It just means you live life on your terms. You don't settle for less than you can do or be or share or give. So that's your mindset. Then you got to say, okay, if I'm really going to be a leader in my life, then I need to own my energy, my certainty. I can't just wait till I feel good to do things. I got to be able to get myself to feel good, and not phony and not fake. So I'd like to show you as a leader, your skill as a leader, your number one skill that makes you a leader is your ability to influence. Is it true? And who do you have to influence first? That's right. If you can't influence you, you're going to influence somebody else. But your ability to influence the thoughts, the feelings, the emotions, the behaviors of other people. If you do that, then you will be able to engage the world and yourself. So how do we do that? Well, to influence other people, hear me now, to influence other people, you have to know what already influences them. If you try to get a kid to clean their room the way it would work for you, I promise you it probably doesn't work that way for them. Everyone's different, but there are some universals, and one thing that influences all of us is our state. If you're in a pissed off state, if you ever had a friend do something nice and you're in a pissed off state and you snap at them and you feel bad later on, it was just the state you're in, who knows what I'm talking about here? Say, So we need to train ourselves to be in a better state. And the second thing that affects what we do long term, besides our state, that's what affects things moment to moment, is we all have a set of beliefs or expectations, or we might call it a blueprint for how life's supposed to be. When life is in alignment with our blueprint, we're happy. We're not, we're upset.
So it got to the 10th guy, and they called his name, and nobody went up. And they called his name again. They said, well, looks like number 10 isn't here. We're going to go to next week's list. Steve Harvey, come on up. I looked at that girl, Gladys. I said, it's crazy. I said, there's somebody in here got the same name I got. She said, you really can't be this stupid. She said, boy, that's you. And the audience clapped again. It was all white audience. I run up on stage, I ain't got nothing. First thing I say to the audience is, hey, I appreciate y'all clapping, but I ain't supposed to be here. I'm on next week's show. They white, they laughed. So I said, no, really, I ain't got nothing for y'all. So the girl Gladys yelled out, tell her about when you was boxing. So on the way down, I had told her this story about boxing. So I did the boxing joke. These people was in the flow laughing. So then, I ain't had nothing else. So I had wrote some jokes for my buddy A.J. Jamal that I hadn't sold to him yet. So I said, well, hell, let me try these. So I did them jokes. They died laughing. They brought me off stage. They brought all 10 of us up on stage. They had a clap off. That night, I won the clap off. I won amateur night, October 8th, 1985. They paid me $50. I get in the car. I'm 40 minutes from my house. Gladys is driving me home. I'm crying the entire time. I can't stop crying. She said, "What you crying for? It's just $50. I said, "No, you don't understand. This ain't $50. I've been born to it. This ain't $50. This God answering a prayer of mine that I've been praying for 20 years. This ain't $50. This is what I'm going to do the rest of my life." I went to work the next day, October 8th, 1985, and quit my job. I have done nothing since October 8th, 1985, except one thing. I've been telling these here jokes. That's all I've ever done. That gift that God gave me. You know, the Bible says your gift will make room for you. It'll make room for you. See, if you're not doing your gift, you're wasting your time. Maybe when you wake up in the morning, see, but sales is a gift. That dude that keep winning team member of the year from the comfortable background.
I had the privilege several years ago, I was invited by these businessmen in South Africa to come over. Yeah. Everybody here from South Africa? I love it. I love it. Cape Town and Sydney are two of my favorite cities in all the world. But I was over there ministering for a bunch of Christian businessmen who had come into an abundance of wealth, and they wanted to submit all that they had into the hands of God, and they invited me over to talk to them both about business and about faith, and just a small group. Wasn't a big crowd of people, but it was an amazing time. And one of the benefits that they gave me for being over there is one of them had such influence. He said, "When you get through working, we're going to take you on a safari." And being a hillbilly from the sticks of West Virginia, I thought that was pretty cool. And I got real excited. I had my son with me and I had my wife with me, and I'd never been on a safari before, so I went out and bought me some safari clothes. Because you got to coordinate everything. You got to be looking good when you're out there with the elephants and stuff, you know, because they might take pictures of you or something. So I looked like I knew what I was doing. I was excited, and they said, "We're going to take you over in a little plane, and you're going to land on the runway and everything like that." And it's kind of out in a little remote area, but it's going to be cool. And we got on the little plane. I was cool, and my son was cool, and my wife was there. Yeah, she was there. She was there. And I was really cool with it because I pictured a runway with a tower and a control tower and everything. There was no control tower anywhere. There was a little runway, just a strip going through the jungle, no lights or nothing on it. And we had to wait before we land because there was a rhinoceros out in the middle of the runway. And all of a sudden, I knew this wasn't going to exactly be like what I had in mind when I started, but I was still cool because the little boy in me is kind of crazy and rough, and I thought, oh, this is going to be good. And my son was down with it. He's ready to go do it. And my wife was just there. They took us out to this, it was like a monstrosity of a mansion out in the middle of the jungle, and it was really cool. It was J. Paul Getty's house, and it was really someplace that I couldn't have gone had they not just allowed me to go, and it was wonderful. It was real plush. It was real nice. I was having a good time, so they said, don't go out the house at night, you know, because the animals are free. Now, you have to understand, in the States we have animals, but they're in cages and stuff like that. And we're free, and the animals are in cages. And so this was an international concept that I was not exactly familiar with. I decided I was going to go anyway. So my son and I, we put on our outfits, and we got up early that morning, and we said, we're going out on the safari. And they brought this big old Jeep up, and we got on the Jeep, and I said, are you ready, Dad? He said, yeah, Dad, I'm ready. We jumped on the Jeep. My wife wasn't there. She felt led of the Lord to stay at home and pray for us. So we got on the Jeep and we're riding out there, you know, and it was interesting because the guy who was giving us the tour and going to show us all of these unique animals, I mean lions and elephants and all of this fantastic stuff, he was a zoologist, and it was amazing. It was amazing because he knew all of this stuff about the animals, how the animals' teeth were cut a certain way so that when they bit into certain branches, the branches were cut in such a way that they would be pruned and still be fruitful. It was amazing. How smart our God is.
There are 3 ways to learn from other people. The first is to listen to the cassettes and read the books by and about people who've accomplished great things. All the successful people I know and work with around the world are good readers. They just read. They are so curious that they are driven to read because they just have to know. It is one of the things they all have in common. Here's a good phrase: all leaders are readers. And they use cassette programs too, especially while they're in the car or during other times when they can't read. Cassettes can help all of us easily pick up new ideas and new skills. Did you know there are cassettes and books on how to be stronger, more decisive, a better speaker, a more effective leader, have a better effect on other people, become more loving, develop personality, get rich, develop influence, become sophisticated, and people don't use them? How would you explain that? Did you know that hundreds of successful people have written their stories in books and told how they did it on cassettes like this, and people don't want to listen? How would you explain that? The guy's busy, I guess. He says, well, yeah, if you worked where I work, by the time you struggle home, it's late. You've got to have a bite to eat, watch a little TV, and get to bed. You can't stay up half the night and read. And this is the guy that's behind on his bill. He's a good worker, hard worker, sincere. But remember, you can be sincere and work hard all your life and wind up broke, confused, and embarrassed. You've got to be better than a good worker. You've got to be a good reader, a good listener. At least you could hear a good cassette on the way home, right? Now, you don't have to read or listen to educational cassettes half the night. Although if you're broke, it's a good place to start. But here is all I ask. Just 30 minutes a day. That's all. Stretch it to an hour if you can, but at least 30 minutes. Half rich isn't bad. 30 minutes. Hear or read something challenging, something instructional, at least 30 minutes a day. And here's the next key. Every day. Don't miss. Miss a meal, but not your 30 minutes. Hey, you can get along without some meals, but you can't get along without some ideas, examples, and inspiration. There's a Bible phrase that says, humans cannot live on bread alone, or food alone. It says the next most important thing to bread is word. Words nourish the mind. Words nourish the soul. Humans have to have food and words to be healthy and prosperous. Make sure you have a good diet of words every day. I told my staff one day, some people read so little they have rickets of the mind. And also remember, to properly feed the mind, you must have good balance. Don't just read or listen to the easy stuff. You can't live on mental candy.
The point is, engaging people have that kind of energy. It doesn't matter who they are, where they are, they have that kind of experience. So what you and I got to do is we got to tap that out. So how many of you have had times when you were in the flow, where energy was going through you, like you didn't have to think about it. The right thing was said, the right thing came out of you. Who's been in this place before? Say I. Oh, come on, say I. Who's ever had a time where you did something, after you did it, you thought, I can't believe I said that. I can't believe I did that. That was so stupid. Who's done this before? Say I. Who's done something where after you did it, you went, that was me. I don't know how I did that shit. That was cool shit. Who's ever impressed yourself? Say I. Now you're the same person. How come one situation you're an idiot, the other one you're brilliant? Who's ever forgotten how to spell your own, how to remember, let's say, your own email or your home phone number, or how to spell a difficult word like the? Let me see your hands here. In fact, phone numbers are crazy now for most of us, right? Because now we have this outboard brain. If we lose this brain, we're screwed. I don't even know how to call my mom, for God's sakes, right? You don't know what to do when you don't have this thing. So the point of the matter is, if we increase the energy in the work, so now here's the thing, where does energy come from? Does energy come from sleep? Yes or no? Really? Who here has ever slept 8 hours and still been tired as shit? Let me see your hands right here. Okay, so that wasn't it, right? Is it food that gives you energy? Really? Thanksgiving's coming. I know what you're going to do, right? You're going to get to Thanksgiving. It's about giving thanks. You're going to take care of this nurtured body of yours. You're going to say, no, give me the vegetables, a little this, a little that, right? Now, what do people do at Thanksgiving? What do? Eat everything within reach. And when you're totally stuffed and you can't have another bite, and you say, I'll never eat again. And somebody goes, pumpkin pie? You go, okay. Come on, who knows what I'm talking about here? And by the way, what happens after? You feel like going for a run? What do you want to do at the end of that meal? Tell me what. Who here has ever fasted 5, 6, 7 days or more, gone on a fast? Does your energy increase or decrease as you no longer eat? Which one? Increases massively. So if it's not food and it's not sleep, don't get me wrong, those are useful, then what is it? The answer is, it's psychology. It's a mindset. It's a decision inside yourself where you say, I will no longer tolerate low energy in my life, because low energy equals shit relationship. That's a technical term. Low energy means low, lousy business. Poor energy means I no longer have the impact on my children. Someone else with greater energy is going to. And if we can find a way to increase our energy, and here's the good news about it, it's psychology and it's movement. The way you move will create it.
For the kingdom of heaven is as a man traveling into a far country, who called his own servants and delivered unto them his goods. And unto one he gave 5 talents, and to another 2, and to another 1, and to every man according to his several ability, and straightway took his journey. Then he that had received the 5 talents went and traded with the same, and made them other 5 talents. And likewise he that received 2, he also gained other 2. But he that had received 1 went and digged in the earth and hid his Lord's money. And after a long time the Lord of those servants cometh and reckoneth with him. And so he that had received 5 talents came and brought other 5 talents, saying, Lord, thou hast delivered unto me 5 talents. Behold, I have gained besides him 5 talents more. Look at me, God, I did good. That's not in your Bible, that's in mine. His Lord said unto him, well done, thou good and faithful servant. Thou hast been faithful over a few things. I will make thee rule over many things. Enter into the joy of the Lord. He also that had 2 talents came and said, Lord, thou deliverest unto me 2 talents. Behold, I have gained 2 other talents beside them. And his Lord said unto him, well done, good and faithful servant. Thou hast been faithful over a few things. I will make thee ruler over many things. Enter thou into the joys of the Lord. Then he which had received the 1 talent came and said, Lord, I knew that thou art a hard man, reaping where thou hast not sown and gathering where thou hast not strewn. Watch this closely. I was afraid, and I went and hid thy talent in the earth, and lo, there thou hast that which is thine. His Lord said unto him, thou wicked and slothful servant, thou knewest that I reap where I sowed not and gather where I have not strawed. Thou oughtest therefore to have put my money to the exchangers, and then at my coming I should have received mine own with usury. Take therefore the talent from him and give it unto him which hath 10 talents, for unto everyone that hath shall be given, and he shall have abundance. But from him that hath not, it shall be taken away that which he seemeth to have. Can the church say amen? Remain standing. I'm going to pray with you while you're standing. I do that so that you can't sleep while I'm preaching. Tonight I'm going to talk to you about the instinct to increase. The instinct to increase. Say that with me. The instinct to increase. Say it again. The instinct to increase. God never intended for you to stay where you started, in where you began. Just maintain, neutralize, and wait on him. There is something down inside of you that God wants to bring forth. The very first command, the very first word that God said to man was be fruitful.
In my 30s, I was homeless based off of a decision I made. October 8th, 1985, I walked in a comedy club for the very first time. Never been in a comedy club, but I had been writing jokes all my life. 2 years, I was writing jokes for a dude taking my jokes, going to a comedy club. He was paying me $10 for it. I had never been to a comedy club, had never heard of a comedy club. I was writing for a buddy of mine named AJ Jamal. He would pay me $10 a joke. One day, I was writing some jokes for him, and I was over his house to drop him off, and this girl named Gladys Jacobs came over to the house, and she said, you the dude that's writing the jokes for AJ Jamal? I said, yeah. She said, he the funniest dude at the comedy club. I said, at the what? She said, he's the funniest dude at the comedy club. I'm 27. I've never heard of a comedy. Now, all my life, I wanted to be on TV. I'm going to tell you that story a little bit. But I just said, man, at the comedy club, she said, you should come. She said, why don't you tell the jokes yourself? Really? Tell the jokes myself? She said, yeah. Now, I'm thinking, I said, man, this could be what I've been asking God my whole life. See, some of you in this spot where you keep asking God, what do I do next? What's my next move? You know the hardest thing about your life? Trying to figure it out. Ain't that hard? But do you know that you ain't supposed to do that? Do you know that God already designed you for a purpose in life? And if you would just simply ask God what it was, he could guide you to it, and the search for what I'm supposed to do would be over. But oh no, we so busy figuring it out. I got news for you. How to do something, the how-to is none of your business. That's what I never knew. So I was just wanting, man, to just be on TV since I was a little kid. And this girl said, come to the comedy. So I go to the comedy club with her. She said, we gonna go Tuesday night. I want you to sign up to perform next week. And then I want you to see how I go first. I said, cool. So I went, I walked in the comedy club. I signed up for the following week. And I sit down. I didn't have no money back then. This girl named Gladys Jacob bought me some chicken wings and grapefruit juice. And I was sitting there watching. It was supposed to be 10 dudes perform. 9 of them went up. Now, I ain't laughed all night. She said, "You're not laughing at none of these jokes." You know why? Because what they were doing was my actual gift. It was the thing I've been doing my whole life. So I wasn't laughing at their joke because I knew everything they was going to say. And I knew everything they should have said where the joke would have really been funny. So I'm just sitting there just a student, man.
Believing something can be done paves the way for creative solutions. Believing something can't be done is pure destructive thinking. This applies to all situations, little and big. Political leaders who don't genuinely believe that permanent world peace can be attained will fail in their pursuit of peace, because their minds will be closed to creative ways to bring about peace. Likewise, the salesman who doesn't believe that that prospect can be sold won't sell that prospect. But, and this is the important part, you can find solutions to business and personal problems if you believe you can. You can find a way to buy a new, larger home if you believe you can. Belief releases your creative power. Disbelief puts the brakes on. Belief is basic to creative thinking. Now, here are 2 suggestions that are guaranteed to help you develop your ability to think creatively.
First, eliminate the word impossible from your thinking and speaking vocabularies. Impossible is a failure word. The thought, it's impossible, sets off a chain reaction of other thoughts to prove it's impossible. Second, conduct this experiment. Think of something special you've been wanting to do but felt you couldn't. Buying a new television, or taking a trip to Europe, or taking a dancing class, or whatever. Now, make a list of the reasons why you can do it. Many of us defeat our desires simply because we concentrate on why we can't achieve them. But for successful people, the only thing worthy of mental attention is why they can. So find the reasons you can do the special things that you want to do, and then put those reasons to work to accomplish them.
Dr. Wernher von Braun, the scientist who was so instrumental in our manned space flight program, once said something very significant. He said, "Man belongs where man wants to go." Now, that's the kind of attitude that gets things accomplished, that gives rise to positive, creative thoughts. That's the exact opposite of the kind of thinking that holds so many people back. I call that kind of thinking traditional thinking. You see, traditional thinking is the enemy of creative thinking. The traditional thinker's mind is paralyzed. The traditional thinker says, it's been this way for 100 years, so it must be good, and it's got to stay this way. Why should we change? Well, I'll tell you why change is worth risking. Change is what brings about progress. Personal progress, work progress, world progress. If you want success, the only way you're going to get success is through change. Taking some risk, thinking of new, different, creative approaches to your work, your life. Average people always have resented progress. And in passing, let me define average for you. Average should be defined as the worst of the best and the best of the worst. Average people raised their voices in objection when the first automobiles appeared, on the grounds, they said, that it was natural for us to walk and ride horses. Average people protested when the airplane appeared because people somehow had no right or business flying. Around the turn of the century, a sales executive came up with what he called the scientific principle of sales management. Oh, it received a lot of attention in those days, even found its way into some textbooks. That principle stated that there is only one best way to sell a product, and the salesperson's job is to find that way and never deviate from it. Well, the truth is that there is no one best way to do anything. There's no one best way to mow a lawn, decorate an apartment, or run a business, or sell a product. There are as many best ways as there are creative minds. Nothing grows in ice. If we let traditional thinking freeze our minds, new ideas can't grow. So, here are some specific ways to fight traditional thinking.
Become receptive to new ideas. Welcome new ideas. Destroy those thought repellents. Won't work, can't be done, it's useless, or it's stupid. Become an experimental person. Break up your fixed routines. Expose yourself to new restaurants, new books, new theaters, or new friends. Take a different route to work some days, and take a different vacation this year. Do something new and different this weekend. If you work in distribution, develop an interest in production, accounting, finance, and the other elements of business. This gives you greater breadth and prepares you for larger responsibilities. Be progressive, not regressive. Don't say, that's the way we did it where I used to work, so we ought to do it that way here. But say instead, how can we do this better than we did where I used to work? Use forward progressive thinking in every facet of your life. Get up an hour earlier and do some daily planning, or think of some other way to vary your daily routine. Remember, traditional thinking is personal enemy number 1 of your creative success program.
Every day, we are reminded of one of the most basic facts of business life in this country. Successful businesses are always looking for new, innovative, and better ways of doing things. Automobile companies are constantly striving to keep up with the public's changing needs and desires. Advertising agencies constantly seek new ways to sell products. The food industry is always looking for better production and distribution methods. The search for improvement is vital, never-ending, and absolutely essential to the survival of competitive businesses. And by the same token, it's vital to the success of anyone who wants to improve his or her lot in life. Absolute perfection in any human endeavor is, of course, unattainable. This means that there's endless room for improvement. Successful people, like successful businesses, are always searching for a better way. You can do this too, as an important part of your personal program for success. Each day, before you begin work, devote 10 minutes to thinking, how can I do a better job today? And ask, what can I do today to encourage my employees? What special favors can I do for my customers? How can I increase my personal efficiency? This exercise is simple, but it's also very effective. Try it, and you'll find unlimited creative ways to win greater success.
I know where I come from. You know, somebody asked me, they said, Steve, why you work so hard? Because I'm running from my past. See, I'm running from my past. The person you see today is not who I've always been. God changed me, man. God turned me into this man. He been making me. God has been shaping me for a lot of years. It's like when you make mistakes. You make mistakes so you can learn. You don't learn from winning. You learn when you lose it. See, Michael Jordan, when I was telling you about them shots he made, the only reason he was making the game-winning shot, because they was losing. They was losing. You got to lose to understand the winning side of life. So I've always understood that much of my life. I done slid off track here with your question because I wanted to say something else. Whoa.
How to stay humble and grounded in a world where you're succeeding?
See, a lot of times when I'm talking, I go off into a story and then I forget where I was at.
I'll keep you on track.
I just had that moment just now. I knew y'all didn't know what I was doing because you stopped clapping. So I said, okay, cool, must be making law. Don't try to tell me. Don't try to help me now. But listen, it's important to just remember where you come from. Just remember. That's the one thing that'll keep you humble. You have to remember where you're from and you have to be grateful because it can go the other way. See, you can want to be successful, but without God's grace and mercy, you won't become successful. So why would you get there and all of a sudden swell up? I'm the greatest now. No, you're not. No, you're not. You have to remember where you're from and you have to stay grateful. There's not a day that I don't thank God for this life he's given me. There is not a single day. Because when I was homeless, you know, I made God a promise. I told God, I said, God, if you let me make it, if you just let me make it, when I get there, I'm going to tell everybody it was you. So that's my mission. See, let me show you this. Your career is what you're paid for. Your calling is what you're made for. God made me famous and I made money. That was for my career. But his calling to me was to show other people how to get a house on the hill. So that became why I was famous. To show other people how to be this way. To cross across oceans to tell my story. To cross religious beliefs. When I sat with Your Highness yesterday, he told me that Islam, this is what he told me. I'm repeating directly what His Highness told me. He said that Islam believes in all faiths, that it is a religion of peace, that Islam believes in Muhammad the Prophet, in Jesus Christ, in all of it. That is what being a Muslim is. This is what he told me. He made me yesterday comfortable with who I was.